Have you spent a fortune on a greenhouse that you can only use for 3 months a year? Stay tuned till the end of this video to learn how you can maximize your greenhouse space by growing at least 3 crops a year and harvest year-round. I'm Zach Buckle, and I'm a year-round veggie farmer in Zone 5, Cody, Wyoming, and we currently average $1,000 a week in sales all winter from harvesting food in these greenhouses you see behind me. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you get notified every time I post a new video about making money from your backyard. Every climate in the northern hemisphere has a cooler period between October and May. So to maximize your greenhouse real estate as much as possible, you've got to grow fall or winter crops. It still blows me away how few growers are doing this. We get down to -20 Fahrenheit every winter here in Wyoming, sometimes down to -30, and we still do this. And we're basically growing extremely cold hardy crops that can take deep cold and just protect them all winter in our unheated greenhouses. We only have one greenhouse that has a little bit of heat, but we have 4 greenhouses that are just like this, unheated. And the way we do this is we focus on cold hardy crops like kale, spinach, miner's lettuce, even regular lettuce sometimes, and we just keep them protected all winter long when it gets really, really cold by using AG19 row cover. So we'll add 1 layer of row cover when it gets down to about 15 degrees at night, and then when it gets down to below 0, we'll add 2 layers and then remove it when it gets warmer, because you do want the plants to be able to breathe. And we use this strategy and just harvest little by little all winter long and sell fresh to our customers. And it allows us to really maximize our greenhouse space and keep food producing all winter long. So an example of this are all of the greens that you see behind me here. We planted these all October 1st, right after we ripped out our summer tomatoes and cucumbers, and they're almost mature now because we're into mid-November. And so we plant all of our crops to be mature around November 7th, which is our last 10-hour day, and that's when plants basically stop growing even in a greenhouse in my climate. That all depends on your climate in your area and where you are located in the earth, depending on daylight. And then once it gets down to 15 degrees at night, we'll start to cover them with this row cover you see behind me that we hang on our trusses in the summertime to keep them protected during the winter. And these plants have already taken quite a few frosts, and they're starting to get a lot more cold hardy, and the row cover is just going to protect them during the extreme cold, and then we remove it when it warms up. And so we'll continue this process by harvesting little by little throughout the winter, and these plants will stay alive and dormant until early February, and then they'll explode with growth. We'll have a truckload of salad greens like spinach, salad mix, arugula, baby kale into March that we can continue to harvest and sell to our customers all winter long. So this strategy is incredibly powerful for increasing the production on your land and producing food at a time when nobody else has food around you. So super powerful way to maximize your greenhouse space. So once March rolls around, all the crops you see behind me are going to be pretty tired and starting to bolt or go to seed and stop producing greens for us. So what we'll start to do is transition these deep winter crops into early spring crops that will mature before May 21st for our summer crops. So what this looks like is we'll start to stirrup hoe or wheel hoe these greens and cutting them at the base to leave the roots in the ground to start building soil for us. And then we'll amend with more compost or our nitrogen source and replant to a super quick spring crop. And we only grow really quick crops at this time that are going to mature in less than 40 days. So we're growing crops like radishes, arugula, bok choy, cilantro, stuff that can produce really fast, really big yields, and be mature before the time we need to replant for our summer crops. So At this time, by May 21st, in a year's worth of time, we've grown 3 crops in one greenhouse by continuing to flip beds and replant. So early spring is a huge way to maximize your greenhouse space by growing before your summer crop. And if anything I'm saying is resonating with you, comment below your key takeaways from this video so far so I know I'm not speaking Chinese. So a greenhouse is useless if it's 120 degrees every day during the summer. Almost all vegetable plants do not produce well above 95 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's really important, if you're going to spend all the money on a greenhouse, to make sure you have incredibly good ventilation, like these roll-up sides you see behind me. All the greenhouses on our farm have at least roll-up sides or really large doors on both ends to make sure that it doesn't overheat in the summer. And we also use 30% shade cloth on some greenhouses that don't have roll-up sides to make sure it doesn't get crazy hot in the summer. Because if it's too hot for you to work in, it's going to be really hard for you to manage the plants correctly. And another key detail to growing in the summer is to focus on growing summer crops like tomatoes, cucumbers, basil, peppers, stuff that likes the heat. If you grow stuff like this winter crops that you see behind me, which is lettuce, kale, spinach, those kinds of crops are just not going to do super well in a greenhouse during the summer. So you want to focus on the heat-loving crops in the summertime, and ideally you want to grow them vertically up a string if possible. So for things like tomatoes, cucumbers, we grow those up a string and use what's called a lower and lean method, where we lower the plants every week. But you can use just baler's twine and grow them right up a string. You don't necessarily have to do the lower and lean method, but if you focus on maximizing the production on a smaller number of plants by growing them vertically, it makes it a lot easier to produce huge amounts of yield of things like cucumbers and tomatoes by just doing a really good job pruning and keeping them healthy in a vertical setting. So we grow all of our vertical cucumbers and tomatoes by hooking them onto this EMT conduit that you see above my head here. And by focusing on maximizing our production from a small amount of plants, we're able to produce 2 to 3 times as much food than you would by just planting them directly in the ground outside. And each plant produces a lot more yield than a plant produced outside that's not staked and stuff like that. So what that looks like during our growing season is we plant our summer cucumbers, tomatoes, and basil in our greenhouses around May 21st, which is our average last frost. And then we keep them highly productive all the way until October 1st. And that's how we maximize our production during the summer. So another really easy way to maximize your greenhouse space is to start your spring seedlings in your greenhouse. And the way we do this on our farm is we create a mini greenhouse within a greenhouse, which is what you see behind me, by basically creating these hoops and adding another layer of plastic on top of them and heating them in the spring, because it's still really cold in my climate to be starting seeds in the spring. So we add this layer of plastic on top of these hoops, and we heat with propane and electric heat mats like you see behind me. And that gives us enough space and heat to start our early tomato plants, pepper plants, basil plants, kale plants. And we also use this space in the wintertime to grow shoots and microgreens like you see behind me right now. So we're using this space all year round still. And what this allows us to do is to plant plants in the ground during the growing season that are already halfway grown. So it increases the amount of crops we can yield from our land during our short growing season. So having plants that are halfway grown by the time you put them in the ground really makes it easy to shorten the time that they take to mature in your ground or on your land. So This allows us to grow at least 2 crops outside by having half-grown plants of things like kale and even spinach in some cases. And we'll use the paper pot transplanting system sometimes to make it so the crop that we're planting is again halfway grown and makes it really easy to transplant. But you don't necessarily need the paper pot transplanter. Even hand transplanting is a huge advantage on a small farm to maximize your small amount of land base. So we use a pretty low-tech system on our farm that we're looking to upgrade soon, and it works. It is, to be honest, a little bit stressful to use propane tanks and manually heat them, turning them on and off every day. But it does get the job done, and if you're in a warmer climate, you might be able to get away with just a small electric heater, and the electric heat mats are a really great way to put the heat exactly where the plants need them, which is at their root system. That's been a huge game changer for us recently. We didn't have those until recently, but heating the plants at the base really gives them a much bigger root system and healthier root system, and ultimately that's where they want the heat during the spring. So if you don't want to grow an early spring crop, this is another great option to use your greenhouse space. And you can even rig it up to be a temporary setup with pallets, kind of like you see below me. And you can move the pallets and plant a summer crop in there if you really wanted to. So growing your spring seedlings is a phenomenal way to maximize your greenhouse space. So if you only have one greenhouse on your property, you may only be able to grow your spring seedlings, then a summer crop, and a winter crop. But even still, that's 2 crops from your greenhouse, and you're getting a really head start on all of your outdoor plantings by starting your spring seedlings in here. And you're really maximizing that greenhouse real estate as much as possible. So just keep that greenhouse producing food for you all year round by using these strategies, and you'll be amazed at the assembly line of food that you've created for your farm. And if you want to maximize your greenhouse space for sales, my list of high profit crops is a great place to start. The list includes all of the yields and revenue that you're likely to achieve from a certain square footage, so you could start to crunch the numbers for your own greenhouse space. If you want that list sent directly to your inbox, click the high profit crop list at the link in the description below, and it'll get sent to you right away. And if you found this video handy, can you do me a favor and like this video and share it with somebody else who might find it valuable? It really helps me reach more people who want to learn how to farm. And if you want to go deeper down the backyard farming rabbit hole, watch this video.